love her so. But it's too late now. I let her go. I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes in my life.
¡Arriba, trabajador! ¡Abajo, explotador! ¡Arriba,
Have you ever gotten a May basket? There used to be a custom on the 1st of May where you'd fill a basket with candies and flowers, then leave it hanging on the door of your friend, neighbor, or relative. In some places, the basket meant an expression of love, and if you were caught leaving it, you'd have to kiss the recipient. The May basket stems from an ancient history of pagan festivals, celebrating spring and fertility. For instance, the Romans had Floralia, 5 days of dancing, flower picking, nude theater, all symbolizing the cycle of life and the worship of Flora, the goddess of flowers, spring, and fertility. Many scholars believe some of these customs were passed on to the Germanic and Gaelic people during the Roman occupation, mixing into their own spring festivals of Walpurgis and Beltane, where the maypole dance is thought to have originated. The dance is said to symbolize the union of the masculine and feminine, represented as a sacred balance from which creation, in this case human life, is born. To these ancient dancers, the maypole, and the process of human reproduction in general, was a reflection of the gods and their own universal cycle of union, balance, and creation. While the Puritans had put an early stop to the maypole dance in North America, the May basket had managed to remain popular, all the way up until the early 20th century. Now, most Americans have probably never heard of a May basket.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone?
This could be indicative of the decline in family, marriage, and birth rates over the past 60 years. For individuals increasingly isolated and politically polarized along gender lines, to whom marriage and children are already of little interest, what motivation would there be for another celebration of the sacred bond between men and women, an idea many have probably grown cynical of anyway? To the modern cynic, the story of men and women is exclusively a tragedy of oppression and the imbalance of power. The union of opposites to create a human life doesn't reflect any kind of sacred balance upholding the entire universe where humans can fulfill themselves by participating. Rather, birth is just one of many labors that can be distributed in humanity's aimless quest to continue eking out a meager existence. With no romance in sight, let alone divine significance justifying these springtime mating rituals, what would May Day even mean to us?
My name is Natalia. I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm a talent organizer. At every single level, Jordan Neely was a victim of this capitalist system.
The fact is, capitalism can never solve hunger. Capitalism will never end homelessness. Capitalism will never end the war on black people. Capitalism will never protect the oppressed. We need a new system, is that right? And together this movement can build one. Anything is possible.
To a generation of single, atomized college graduates struggling to compete in an oversaturated job market, perhaps the collective of the workers is more relevant than that of the family. And with the rising support of socialism among young voters, the 1st of May might start to take on its other historical meaning, that related to the labor movement.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on?
The May 1886 article of the St. Joseph Herald shows us a glimpse of when the meaning of May Day was about to be eclipsed. The passing of May Day and its basket-making activities receives only brief mention in the paper. The main story focused on a strike in Chicago that had just ended in explosions and gunfire, leaving 7 police officers dead and many more injured. The strike had been called by the Federation of Organized Trade and Labor Unions to demand the 8-hour workday, a long-standing goal of the labor movement. On May 1st, 80,000 workers marched up Michigan Avenue, most of them being German immigrants and exiles from the revolutions of 1848, also known as the Springtime of the Peoples. 2 days later, a fight breaks out between strikers and police at the McCormick Reaper Works, resulting in the death of 2 workers. To protest these 2 deaths, a rally was called for the following night at Haymarket Square. Speaking at the rally was Albert Parsons, leader of the American branch of the International Working People's Association, a militant anarchist group born from the remnants of the First International, a major left-wing political group which had crumbled in 1872 after Karl Marx had expelled anarchist leader Mikhail Bakunin over disagreements of how best to achieve socialism, an act irreparably splitting the anarchist and communist factions. Also attending the rally was August Spies, editor of the anarchist newspaper The Alarm, infamous for its articles explaining how to make dynamite and editorials supporting the assassination of public officials. After Spies and Parsons spoke, Mayor Carter Harrison of Chicago, who had also attended, left the rally, stopping by the closely stationed police unit to inform the captain that the meeting posed no threat. In spite of this, the police went in, and from somewhere in the crowd, a bomb was thrown at them. On June 21st, there was no evidence leading to the identity of the bomber, but 8 men were in custody anyway, including Parsons and Spies, to be tried as accessories to murder for their inflammatory speeches during the rally. The defense provided alibis for all 8 of the suspects, finding that only Parsons and Spies had even attended the rally and had been seen clearly the entire time there. Prosecuting attorney Julius Grinnell rested his case with the words, "Law is on trial. Anarchy is on trial. Convict these men. Make examples of them. Hang them, and you save our institutions." After 3 hours, the jury reached a guilty verdict. All but 1 of the men would be hanged. Ultimately, 2 of the men would have their sentences commuted to life in prison. 1 would commit suicide by blowing his face off with a dynamite cigar he managed to have smuggled into his cell. And finally, the last 4 were hanged, Spies delivering the final words. "The day will come when our silence will be more powerful than the voices you are throttling today." In 1889, the Second International would form at a Paris conference and designate May 1st as International Workers' Day, or May Day, a holiday in honor of the Haymarket martyrs, and of the labor movement in general. And, just like that, May 1st would now be shared between worship of the flower goddess and the Socialist Collective, with much of the Workers' Day propaganda adopting the traditional symbols of May. International Workers' Day would go on to become a prestigious event in the Soviet Union, where the Kremlin officials would gather at the Red Square to watch extravagant military parades and performances, with their own propaganda again reflecting the symbolic association of spring as a time of vitality and rebirth in tune with the revolutionary cause of socialism. Meanwhile, in the United States, President Grover Cleveland would go on to designate September 4th as Labor Day.
Now take a look at these Met Office radar pictures. It looks like it was raining over parts of London, Kent and Sussex yesterday, but turns out it was a dry day there. This blue cloud was actually a swarm of flying ants heading across the southeast.
Early September is also when the Labor Day ants start their nuptial flight to reproduce and establish new colonies. Just before sundown, thousands of flying ants will release into the air all at once, initiating a violent mating competition, after which the surviving impregnated queens will find somewhere to lay their eggs and start a new colony. For other ants, and insects in general, spring is when they come out of their winter hibernation to begin the mating season. Within the span of a few weeks, ants, bees, termites, and all other creepy crawlies hatch a new generation to undergo a life cycle of transformative phases and metamorphosis.
A heavily armoured freshwater crab wanders into the path of the hunting party. The team swarm over the tough outer defences, inside the legs, and eat the crab from the inside out.
Perhaps this is part of the reason why the May Days, a newly formed socialist protest group, assigned themselves the symbol of an ant, where the convergence in May of International Workers' Day and the expansion of ant colonies represents the power of collectivism, and where spring represents the season of change, unity, and liberation from the stagnation, isolation, and oppression of winter. The ease of living conditions diminishing the necessity to compete for resources and encouraging cooperative behavior, allowing for the expansion of social power. In this light, May Day has always been the time of the collective, whether through the rights of human workers or the building of ant colonies.
Each member of ant society cooperating to achieve the seemingly impossible and supply the ravenous hordes.
Comparisons between the social aspects of humans and insects are nothing new, nor specifically the description of ant society as socialist. Entomologist E.O. Wilson often said of ant society that Karl Marx was right, he just had the wrong species. So, are insect colonies comparable to socialist visions of society? Are humans indeed the wrong species for such a system? And if so, are there ways by which humanity could be transformed to fit such a structure? To answer these questions, we must first look to the philosophical origins of collectivism and follow the concept through evolutionary, social, and political theory from ancient times until today. This is the first chapter in what will be a series exploring this philosophical movement and its proclaimed story of human destiny building towards a higher stage of evolution. It's a story we'll call